Hi, and welcome to Bonus Conversations, Journeys into the Soul. I am here with Ryan. Ryan's episode was called Don't Waste Your Life. It's so good. It's the first episode in the series. Remember, you can find the series on our website, journeysintothesoul.com. It's also on Amazon Prime in the US. And his episode impacted me so greatly. His facilitator was Triona Sheeran, and they did their session in Greystones in Ireland. Ryan, thank you so much for being here with me today.
You're welcome, David. Welcome. I'm really glad to be here and catch up with you.
Your episode was so important to my life because it seems like so many times we have expectations, we see how things are going to go, and then they don't go that way. And yours was about don't waste your life. And your opening scene was you're like, I see sand. I'm this guy. I'm a thin man. I'm going into the market and I'm buying some stuff. I'm trading. And then I'm coming back and gonna have the family dinner and we're just like, okay, there's not much going on. And then these soldiers come in and there's this horrific scene that occurs. Going back to that time and that place, give me your perspective on what that felt like in that moment when you were having this visual scene.
It literally did feel, even though it was like a memory, it felt surreal. Even in, if you know what I mean, it was like my whole life. I couldn't believe how my whole life could be completely taken away from me in a second, in a moment. And that was the real. I was like, how has this just happened? Like she was my world, and that just completely shattered everything. It's like a part of me died there with her. So yeah, it was very intense. You can see that on the program. Very emotional. Even thinking back to it, I still get quite emotional, which is mad. So yeah, very very traumatic past life memory.
Yeah, when I was doing the cut-in interviews with you after the session, I mean, you had tears, and I was like, wow, I was getting choked up because you can really see how emotional that was and how impactful it was for you. It was just for me, it was very powerful. When people go, "Oh, you're just making up stuff," I'm like, yeah, maybe so, but you really had this feeling, this visceral feeling, and when you had the loss of your wife, you're just like in such grief.
Yeah, that's right. And Trina even mentions that I'm not married in this lifetime. I don't have any kids. And to have that sort of emotional reaction, like I don't know what it's like to have a partner who I share my life with and have a kid with or anything. So to have that visceral reaction to that is pretty, yeah, it's pretty hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah, the session was so powerful. The next scene, you're working with people in a town square, and you're kind of like Rage Against the Machine, and the soldiers are there, and they're some sort of an uprising, and they're taking off the fighting men, and you're kind of left there, and you must have felt like you were older and didn't have the ability to put a resistance up, and that made you feel even worse, and you just kept going, I hate them so bad. You're so mad at these guys.
Yeah, that was I felt really suppressed in that life, like really just someone standing on your neck that whole lifetime. And it didn't help that I had lost everything. Now that I was advancing in age, I was losing my little strength that I did have physically, which did, just made things even worse. So that feeling of feeling worthless and what is the point in this life really was really strong. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's so like, oh, I'm like, whoa, man, this poor dude. So Trina goes, okay, move forward in this lifetime, and you're kind of at the end of your life. You're an old man. You got a walking stick, and I mean, there's so much that happened in the session. I wasn't able to put every single detail, but there was a family nearby that had a lady that would come over and take care of you, and you felt so much appreciation to her, but she was kind of like nursing you. And then at some point, you go to the last day in that lifetime, and you're just like, oh man, it's a horrible life. I'm dying here alone. Oh, what? My son's gone, and then oh, suddenly your son appears, and he's happy, he's healthy, he's strong and handsome, and apparently he found a love kind of what you had with his mother. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, that was the last day or the last days. And it did feel extremely lonely. I was there and I was like, right, this is it. My everyone's left me and or been taken from me. And having my son come back at that moment was such a relief that because I got to finally see how his life had turned out. Because I don't think I'd seen him for many years, from what I sort of remember or gather, and he was literally the opposite of how I'd been. He was the antithesis of what not to do with that situation. I took the path that I was almost a clear example for him of what not to do, and he did the opposite, and he flourished. So he was almost the lesson in that whole thing, for me, of how I sort of made the wrong choices and everything else. But yeah, to see him strong and happy, and he found that love that got taken so brutally away from me. So that just gave me a lot of peace, and I was able then to move on and let go from that life. And I think I was kind of glad, to be honest. It was a
Yeah.
long life. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's I do feel like there was kind of that happy, positive space. You're like, okay, my life is over, but at least I know my son's doing good, and
yeah.
I passed on a legacy to him. He knows how not to live a life, and so he lived a life opposite of that. I think that was a beautiful thing too.
So yeah, it was a really good ending, I think, to the whole story, because it was a very miserable sort of life. So that was the kind of cherry on top just before I left.
Yeah.
So it was
And
good.
then, Trina says, well, I'd like to contact Ryan's, higher self, his subconscious. And she asked for permission. And you said, yep, granted. And so she starts to ask you, well, what was the deal with that lifetime? And, tell me, tell me about your perspective when she asked you those questions. What was the deal with that?
I was the example for my son of what to, as I said before, what not to do with that life, and with the grief thing of holding on. Your life might not be going the way you want it to, but we always have choices, and this was a massive realization that I had after actually a good time into the year afterwards. We all have choices in life, and I think there is this illusion that we don't have choices, and that we're in situations that we maybe don't want to be in, but we don't have to be there. Like, no one's literally got a gun to their head and saying you have to live this exact way or this exact life. Or you can always change your circumstances if you want to. And I know a lot of people have different, family or things, or like people who are relying on them. But overall, if you really wanted to, you can change your circumstances. We all have a choice. And I did choose to. I had other options, and I didn't. I chose not to do that. I chose not to take them. Um, so that was the overarching lesson, I think, for that life was, don't waste your life. And if it's not going well, don't like completely commit to that. You can look, survey your options, and you can change it if you want to. So,
Yeah.
and my son, that's what he did. And he was the example of what you can do if you choose the other option. So we were literally like two examples of the fork in the road. I went one way and he went the other, and one flourished and one didn't do so well. So yeah, that's where our choices get us.
Yeah. I love how Trina said, well, do you have a message for Ryan from that higher self? And it was like, oh, we love Ryan so much. And we want him to know that in that lifetime, I mean, most people couldn't have kept going. They may have taken their own life. They may have just done so. At least he kept going, even though he was in this misery and he was a tortured man. He kept going, and you had tenacity. And I thought that was such a beautiful aspect to know that even though it was difficult, you had the tenacity to keep going. And that encouraged me too. I was like, wow, even when things were hard, you just kept going.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is another really strong theme throughout my life. That I do show a lot of strength in hard times. I am the person who sort of keeps trucking, just keeps moving forward. That I think anyone else in that lifetime potentially would have, just exited themselves out. But I chose to stick with it, and there's a lot of strength. Like, strength is cultivated in the dark places, in the hard times, and especially if you make that a prolonged period of time, which turned out to be pretty much an entire lifetime. That takes a lot of, like, slowly but surely you're getting chipped away at every single day, and to put up with that and keep doing that and still keep trucking on. You might be battered and bruised at the end, but just even stick in the game that's impressive. So yeah, I was actually almost proud of myself. In that past life, I was like, yeah, fair play. Like, keep going doing that, and I
Yeah.
have I have seen examples of that in my own life in this lifetime. of where I've really struggled, and a lot of it has been alone. Like in that lifetime, I was pretty much alone. I was isolated and by myself, and I had seen themes of that in my life where I've been isolated and by myself, and I just got myself through things and just kept going. And it's been funny, the parallels in between the two lives. So it is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So the session ends, we do a follow-up a couple of weeks later, and you talk about moving yourself forward. What do you want to share with people about after your session? How did life go for you? What do you want to be public about?
I think it's very easy to show on a program that it's all sunshine and rainbows after the cameras stop rolling, and that's just not the case. And 2023 was a very hard year for me. Yeah, a lot of struggle, a lot of aspects from that lifetime did creep into this one. I do feel maybe not the exact same lesson of I've lost someone in such a tragic event, but the sort of feeling that I had in that lifetime of like life is really hard, I'm really struggling, and the emotional sort of like this feeling of like grieving, like a loss that you don't really know what you've lost. It's just like almost like a heaviness, you're just very, yeah, you're grieving something, you don't really know what you're grieving type of thing. I've sort of experienced that a lot this year. So at the end of the program, you see me, I'd sort of set up my own business, and that was going okay. But just like any sort of business, you have your struggles, and I really did go all in for that, and I did really struggle financially the rest of that year, which obviously, when you're in that survival mode for a long period of time, it's very hard to do anything but think of how can I get out of this, or money or anything. That you can't be your best self whenever you're in survival mode. And so I was in that the majority of the year. And then I had a really bad breakup as well just before I did my session. So that sort of played out the rest of the year, and just other factors as well. Just it was a really just hard year, to be honest. Emotionally. As we get older as well, it's especially being in this sort of, I'm gonna say, spiritual journey, you sort of start to detach from the world in a lot of ways. Things that matter to you before don't start to, like, you don't really care about them and stuff like that. And friendships and family, you sort of people start to fall away, and you can become quite isolated. So, and that's sort of pretty much happened to me this year. I went kind of through like a hermit phase almost. So I was very isolated and alone, kind of similar to that lifetime, and things were really hard, and I was just dealing with them myself. And yeah, to be honest, I'm glad I got through 2023, and it was a pretty rough year. And I know collectively there's obviously a lot of stuff going on in the world. A lot of people are feeling very similar. So yeah, it was a tough year. So I'll not sort of pretend like everything was great after the cameras finished rolling, because they didn't. And unfortunately, my business didn't work out, and that's fine. It's just a business at the end of the day. I would always rather be the person who said, "Oh well, then what if?" Like at least I give something a try. I put my heart and soul into it, and it didn't work out. That's obviously the universe being like, "It's okay. Just there's lessons you had to learn from that, but that wasn't your final destination, so it's all good."
Yeah.
And you got to detach from that expectation of putting everything into that and wanting it to work out. You just got to sort of go with the flow. And I guess I learned a lot this year about that as well, detaching myself from outcomes and just letting things come and go into my life. If things work out, fair enough. If they don't, then just let them go and move on to the next. So
In that session, there were other options that you could have done. Did that impact your life at all, in your real life?
we did that session at the very start of the year. So um I think the lessons, I only really truly got to see them when the whole year played out. So it was actually mainly after that session that finished and stuff, and then the whole year played out, that I actually seen I got the real nuggets of the lesson from that lifetime, because I could really see the parallels. And I think that in that life, obviously, I went through a lot of grieving and pain, and I chose to stick with it. I didn't choose to change my situation at all. Yeah, I read a really interesting quote once, and it said something about karma being, the actual real definition of karma is balance. And it's about choosing one thing, and then, if you want the balance, you choose the other option. And I think that can come across in lifetimes, not just in one. So, and I do feel that maybe in that lifetime, I chose to stick with something and it didn't work out. And in this lifetime I think this is the lifetime that I choose the other option of changing my situation, changing my circumstances. And in that lifetime, one of the main options was I could have left because my son left that actual whole village or whatever it was and moved to a completely different area. And that's really came through in this lifetime that I really do feel an urge to maybe like change my actual physical destination or location and see if that makes me feel better because it's almost like I've tried to fit in as best I can in this where I'm at the minute. I've tried changing the jobs, I've tried changing the careers, and tried chasing the money, which like a lot of people do, thinking that that is going to get them the freedom and stuff and everything else. But if you're still feeling the same way and you're changing all the other factors, maybe you need to change something else, which is maybe like different location, culture, like a completely different. Like if you've played Monopoly your whole life and you don't fit into that culture or that sort of board game, maybe another game would suit you better. So I don't know. That's kind of on my mind at the minute to actually maybe just change everything up and see if that is the common denominator. Actually move away and see if I can, yeah, find something a bit more. I don't know, just like finding general peace. To be honest, like a bit more peace, which he would have found in his lifetime. I think if he would have moved as well. So that's kind of where I'm at the minute.
Well, we
So yeah,
can do our next conversation here in Arizona. I can take you up to Sedona, the Red Rocks, and you can get a little change of venue. That'd be fun too.
yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. So yeah, overall, that's pretty much the big lessons that I took from that. In that lifetime, I didn't change anything. I went through a lot of pain and I suffered and I kept suffering and just constantly repeating that. And I just didn't want to. I stubbornly didn't want to move out of that, and I turned into a very miserable. I think I said in the video, like there wasn't a lot of love left in that person's heart, and that's the very last thing that I want to happen to me in this lifetime, and I have felt that a lot. Like when you go through a lot of pain over the course of a year or years, or hurt or emotional pain, like it does really close you off, like to your heart, and you don't want to be that person who's just getting up every day and complaining their life is rubbish and like you hate your life and this is what is the point in it? You've just become like this miserable person, and that is not your best self. And it sort of hit me this realization that I don't need to be anything. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to accomplish anything. My job, and I believe in this lifetime, and I don't know why it's taken me this long to realize it, is just to be the very best version of me. And through that, that just affects everything. The people I come into contact with, I'm just a happy person. I'm doing, I'm like radiating good energy out and stuff instead of being like this miserable person who's like, just like no doesn't want to be around anyone and everything else. So I think just being happy and being content and being the very best version of you, that is your job, that is your purpose. I've been chasing all these like bigger things, like like why was my big purpose here and what I'm supposed to do in this world and all that. And maybe it's just to be happy, maybe it's just, and then all that other stuff will come organically when I'm in a better place. As I said, it's really hard to get there when you're in the survival mode and you're miserable and you're worrying about money and what to do. And maybe the lesson is just get into a good place just within yourself and just let things flow. And yeah, I think that's where my head's at the minute anyway. So
Yeah, that is such a good lesson. And, I have taken so much from not only your episode that we created together, but just this journey in life of being in that good space so you vibrate with
yeah.
joy and happiness rather than like, man, this didn't work out or this didn't work out or boy, I don't know why is it so hard? It's very easy for me to get into that paradigm too.
Mhm.
I've had issues in my life that did not go the way I thought they were going to go.
Mhm.
And part of the joy for me is to be able to share these sessions and create these episodes. And what people they may not realize is that it's like the soul journey that I'm on to actually share all of these stories that you experience. They come back into me, and I get to learn and grow from that. And one of those prevailing messages throughout the episodes, or enjoy your life, enjoy while you're here, enjoy things, and don't take things too serious. And this is a cosmic journey of the soul to experience, explore, and expand. And that don't waste your life energy has so profoundly impacted me, because when things don't go the way I'd like them to, I can get into that kind of sad, depressed space easily. And it's always a reminder, hey, persevere, keep going, don't take it so serious, find the little things. If you enjoy a football game or a sunset or chocolate or red wine, or do something that you can enjoy, so you get in that space of enjoying life, and maybe that's how you radiate and vibrate out, in that
100%.
space of joy.
Yeah, I love that. That's pretty much at the conclusion that I came to as well. And I think that was one of the very I think that was like the number one top regrets of the dying was I just wish I let myself be happier. And that was just such a profound, and that is pretty much what was my in that lifetime as well.
Yeah.
Just
I,
be happy.
I have had many ladies reach out to me and ask, "Is Ryan single?" So tell me, what's your eHarmony platform here, pal? Tell me all about that. I mean, are you looking for love?
Yeah, I think it's about time, as I said. And last year I went through like a pretty bad breakup. So, yeah, I rode that wave and sort of came out the other side. So, yeah, if anyone wants to get a flight to Belfast, crack on.
A
I'm all
flight to
ears.
Belfast.
Yeah,
But go to ryanslookinforlove.com, right?
absolutely.
I love it. Well,
Mm.
again, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being public. From the work that you experienced with Trina, do you have a recommendation? Do you have things to say about that experience that you've had with her?
Everyone's on their own individual journey at the end of the day, and I naturally, organically came across Dolores Cannon and Trina as well. And I just think that things will start coming into your experience. You start coming across things, and when you're ready and you feel that sort of draw to do things, pay attention to it. If you start seeing loads of things about past life regressions or whatever, like going, okay, that sounds cool, and definitely seek it out because you might get answers that you're just, you know, like I would never have thought to even dream that up, that whole like that whole situation. And, it's just a really I just find it a really because it comes like solely from you. You're not on any sort of psychedelics or anything. It's like literally coming from inside you. So you can't get a more pure like answer to what you're looking for because it's all coming from inside you. And that's what I really liked about it was I've tried psychedelics, I've tried like ayahuasca and things like that. And what I really liked about the past life stuff was all these answers are coming from inside me. And they resonated so deeply for that reason, I think, because this is all stuff that it's very personal to you. All these lessons is not some outside thing telling you this stuff. This is your soul telling you it, or your higher self, whatever you want to say. So, yeah, if you really are like inclined, or you've got an inkling to do these things, then definitely just try it. Like you only hear once, so try everything and see what shoe fits. Try all these different modalities, and a lot of people really like hypnosis, past life stuff, and some people are like, it's not really for me. But you don't really know until you try these things. So the Dolores Cannon website, I think, has practitioners all around the world, and I think it's only going to get more and more. I think
Yeah.
past lives people are really starting to realize
Yeah.
how much of a thing that really is. So yeah, like go for it. I think it's an amazing opportunity for you to dig into a side of yourself that you maybe don't know exists, or a story that is held within your consciousness or whatever you want to call it that you don't know about. And it's just a really interesting thing. And if you don't get anything from it, then at least it's a cool story that you can tell your grandkids. So
Well,
yeah, so
all the time people say, well, was it real? That thing, was it real? And the story isn't the most important thing. It's the meaning of the story.
yeah,
Was it real? Did Ryan really have a past life as this? Well, probably, but regardless, this story has a way to inform him. And from that, we can all learn from his experience. And so the reality is, yeah, the what was real about it was the message. It was the meaning of don't waste your life. That's what's so profound about this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that it's the message as well that you really don't, as you said, has such a profound meaning. Like that's what I love about it. You just go into this and you come out with this massive realization, and you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. It's a really good experience. I would definitely recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, I love that. And then, so much gratitude to Trina Sheeran. She had
Mm.
reached out to me and we'd started a thread back and forth, a messaging. And I was like, we got to meet. And so we did a Zoom session. And she said, come to Europe, do these episodes, get a well-rounded view of the world rather than just a US based
Yeah.
show. And she said, we can film. I've got this client, Ryan. He's going to be somebody that I think will really be impactful. And so much gratitude for Trina for creating this experience for us both to share in.
Absolutely. Hats off to Triona. Like she really did. She made me feel so comfortable and able to get into that state so easily. There's something very reassuring about her energy or something. She's very like grounding and you're in safe hands type of thing. So and yeah, that whole thing about the Europe thing, I think, especially living in this side of the world, a lot of the stuff that we see is predominantly America. So it's just good to actually be like, this stuff is going on in all around the world, and it's not just Hollywood or America or because that's what we all see is all you guys are the sort of the television for the rest of the world. So yeah, it was pretty cool to get the whole scope. It doesn't matter where you are in the world or who you are, what your background is. We all have these universal lessons that we all sort of like are connected with, which I found amazing. So
Yeah, that's what was really impactful for me is regardless of where I was in the world, people are all looking for common themes. We're looking for belonging, for purpose, for meaning, meaningful relationships, meaningful work. We're kind of looking for, how do I fit in and belong and yet have self-expression? And I think that's a human commonality that we've shared, and I love that all of these sessions, although I'm very grateful everyone is able to express themselves in the English language. Um, everybody's still going the same direction. That's what I thought was so beautiful about the show.
what I loved about it was with all the division in the world, that was such a clear message that we are all the same at the end of the day. We're all the same. We're all connected. We're all, human beings. It doesn't matter where you're from or, what's going on in the world. We're all, when you cut away all the bullshit. I don't know if we're allowed to swear in this, but if you cut away all the bullshit, we are all the same, as human beings, you said, we all want to be loved and belonging and all of these emotions that are innately human. And that's what I loved about it as well. It's such a clear example of there is no division at all if you actually put everyone side by side. That's all an illusion, that's what I loved about it. So
Yeah. Well, my dude, I love you so much. I appreciate you creating this space where we can all learn from in the first place with your episode. It was so powerful. And I also appreciate you sharing with us, hey, life's not perfect and things are still challenging and I do like your tenacity and if things aren't working, instead of just shutting down, going, life's not fair, it's just so hard. Well, what else can I create? And it sounds like that's the space that you're currently in.
thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity that you give us all to share this, and it's been amazing seeing this on Amazon and stuff. I was like, wow, that's it's pretty cool. So yeah, I think that when anyone's really ready to watch this, they'll be so glad that someone like yourself, took it upon themselves to create this beautiful package for people to see. So thank you so much, brother. You're an absolute legend.
Dude, when I went on Amazon Prime, the very first thing I see is your face. You're just
I know, yeah.
Katrina, and her side's obscured by whatever the lettering. And I'm like, Ryan, you're like the poster guy for this whole thing.
Yeah. I was like the thumbnail of the whole thing, and I was like, wow, it's so weird to turn the TV on and like see myself. So
Oh,
yeah.
we're gonna call
My
you
ego, my
thumbnail.
ego, my ego enjoyed that, so it was good.
Well, I did too, dude. If there's one thing you want to leave people with, what would that be? What do you want people to know from this experience you've encountered?
In the world, in the universe, there's always seasons, you know, there's never like an eternal winter. There's never like something that stays the same forever. And you know, it's all about balance at the end of the day. And if you're going through a hard time, even if it's been for decades, you know, there's no way that's going to be your whole life. Like even in that life that I had it, the first part of it was amazing. You know, I was really in love and blah blah blah, and then the pendulum swung the other way. And so if you're going through a really hard time, and this is what I constantly remind myself, is that the pendulum will swing the other way. At some point it will balance. The scales have to be balanced. You know, you can't just have one experience of pure hell and like your whole life. That's just not how it works. You know, there's never just all winter. At some point the seasons do change. At some point this pendulum will swing back the other way. And so just be patient, and in those moments of, you know, transition, if you are waiting for the pendulum to swing back, just be kind to yourself and really go in and focus on trying to do your best to understand what's going on, and like seeking out, I don't know, the, you know, the QHST or whatever works for you. And you know, in the interim until it swings back, you know, be kind to yourself, like go, you know, treat yourself well. And because life is hard enough. There's no point in making your life harder for yourself by treating yourself bad, like talking badly about yourself, you know, and eating crappy food and all these other things that keep you in a space. You might as well just, you know, get yourself through it, and remember that it will swing back the other way. And at some point, you know, summer will come or spring will come. So yeah, that's kind of my parting message of wisdom.
Yeah, beautiful. I appreciate it, dude. Well, thank you so much. I love you. You and I will catch up on another day, and I'll find out how your journey's going, and you can find out how my journey's going. So, I appreciate you so much, and thank you for being a part of my journey. And to you, my friend, I say namaste.
Cheers, bud. Thank you. Take care.